Let's get into it. Coach Colin News. What I'm about to show you is the naivety of someone who just blindly supports Biden in regards to Charlie Kirk going up against this typical Biden supporter, completely naive to what's going on at the border, has no clue what's happening. Then I'm going to bring you the reality of what's going on through an actual sheriff who is running around on the border trying to straighten things out. And he can literally talk about what happened from the prior administration to this administration. The guy has the numbers and everything. And then we're going to talk about the money that is being spent on the illegal immigration crisis that is currently ravaging the nation. New York, California, Texas, Arizona, all over the United States. Now, we're going to start with Charlie Kirk talking to this gentleman. Then we're going to jump over to another clip that I find so interesting. And then we're going to end it off in the, it's a budget meeting that they're having. It's a committee meeting about the budget. And one person is letting us know how much is being spent on illegal immigrants and how much is being spent on veterans. Now, I want you to guess before you even see it. How much on illegal immigration? Say the number. Now, how much on veterans? Say the number. I guarantee you're going to be shocked when you hear it. Let's get into this.
Managing the border better.
I think Joe Biden. I will justify that. I will justify it.
Please.
Economically, when an immigrant comes to this country, even an illegal immigrant, even someone who does not have high-level, high-earning skills, they contribute more to the economy as a whole than they take away. They contribute to fixed expenses like the military. They provide more into social benefits than they take. And if we're talking about issues with like job scarcity, what we actually have is an issue with job distribution and the way our systems are set up to take advantage of poor working class Americans.
So do you believe in borders at all?
I believe that practically, yes. I believe that there does need to be major reform in the way we deal with borders.
I just want to make sure you understand. How many people do you think are coming across the border every day?
I do not have the exact numbers on that, but I think it's a reasonable amount. I'd probably say in the thousands, tens of thousands.
Yeah, 10 to 15,000 a day. So to put that annualized, that's 3.65 million a year minimum.
Sure.
Right? That is the population more than some U.S. states. You're saying it's all a benefit. First of all, tell that to the family of Lake and Riley, okay? Secondly, I asked you a question. Who is managing the border better? We don't have a border under Biden. You arrive, you're in. We've gotten rid of DNA testing.
That is just not true.
Hold on a second. How many people are being turned away at the border? Are we doing DNA testing, background checks?
But you mean like turned away at the border? Lots of people are turned away in the border, immigrating to the U.S. legally. Like the majority of people who don't have visas.
If you show up in Ciudad Juarez at the other side of El Paso and you claim asylum, welcome, buddy. You get a free ticket to the interior United States, cell phone, benefits, social security number, and you are now in the United States of America despite breaking the laws. And that's fine. We just have a difference of opinion on this. I find it so interesting of someone who's trying to like justify the breaking coming into our country and the breaking of our laws, but you have a right to that opinion. So.
No. I don't think it's an opinion. I don't necessarily know like where you're getting these statistics, but I don't think Joe Biden is just like, come on in. Like everyone's opened the border.
No, he absolutely did that.
No, he has not. He has not been like that.
Yes, he has.
And more than that, what actually we need when we're talking about immigration reform, we need to make immigration more accessible for legal immigration.
Now, how about this? Or we need to put our own U.S. citizens first ahead of foreigners. Yeah? Isn't the whole idea of a government that the citizens of the country should come above the citizens of another country?
United States citizens, we are immigrants.
Hold on, no, hold on a second. Some are immigrants here, some are descendants of settlers. Settlers and immigrants are two different things. Settlers come to a barren land and build something new. Immigrants come to a country that's already built. Yeah, barren. Like, okay. I don't know, Plymouth Rock.
Okay, I won't get into that. You know what? I'll let more questions get.
I appreciate the clarity.
Very, very interesting stuff. Again, just very, very typical knowledge base. And I was right where he was. Just 2-3 years ago, I was right where he was. I had no idea how this all worked. I mean, it's through this through this second channel, through my main channel, having to research all these topics that Rogan would bring up, then going down my own rabbit holes where I want to know certain information, that I ended up figuring a whole lot out. I'm sure all of you have done the same amount of looking into things, or at least seeing videos and taking in information and taking in different information and staying away from mainstream media or not. That's all up to you there. But the fact that he said there's a reasonable amount, what would a reasonable amount be? What's a reasonable amount when it comes? Because, right, we're talking about breaking the law, right? Illegally entering a country. There's a wall. There's guards. There's patrol over there. I think it's the green shirts who will take you in and do certain things. I think the brown shirts are something else. But you're literally looking for certain people to take you in because right away you're going to be into the United States. You're going to get processed. You're actually going to pick where you want to go, and they're going to let you go there. What's a reasonable amount, right? Like, what's a reasonable amount for looting? Like, I guess that answers that. There's been an answer to that question, right? If it's under I think what is it, $950? Maybe they made it a little higher, but they consider that a reasonable amount of theft. If you're under that, whatever. If we catch you, we'll take you in, but we're going to release you. As long as you're under that. And you could do that 6 times a day if you want. If you got the motivation, you can do that 6 times a day. Because literally AOC and other Democrats think that you're just doing it for bread to feed your kids. That's why you take the Gucci belts and the Nike shoes. And then on top of that, he thinks that, again, this is just a very naive knowledge base. He thinks a majority of people are turned away. It's very interesting. That's for me, for everything I know, very odd thought process. But if you just don't know, you're just thinking, yeah, they try and they don't make it and they get turned away. And that's what happens. And then lastly, well, actually not lastly, but right here where he says that illegal immigrants contribute more to the U.S. versus the citizens. That's a very odd stance. Now, you can't blanket statement that, right? Because not all illegals do that. That's why he said, explain that to the family of Lake and Riley. 100%. She passed away at the hands of somebody who was actually in jail and released due to overcapacity. So he was released early. They didn't just throw him out, but they were like, okay, let's process this guy's parole and get him out of here because we don't have enough space. And then he ended up taking someone's life. There's the other gentleman who was teaching other illegal immigrants, hey, you can seize a house as long as, he's teaching them squatters' rights. There's those guys. They're not contributing. They're just not more than any citizen. But I think we all know about people who maybe they're illegal, maybe they're not, maybe you don't even ask, maybe you just assume, I don't know. But there are some people who come from other countries and they work so hard. They have their family and they just want to work hard for their family, and they're just a regular person. That's what regular good men do. Regular good men look at their family and say, I have to do whatever I can do so they're not uncomfortable. I have to give them everything I can. So there's people that do that, like, of course. But to just say blanketly, illegals come and contribute more. That's why I want to go over the money really quick. Because when you hear the number that's being spent on this crisis, they would have to have an illegal immigrant Elon Musk. And maybe one has come across. I have no idea. Maybe he's just at the beginning of building his empire. I have no clue. But it's a wild number. And then lastly, of course no one thinks, let's go to the next clip. Of course no one thinks that Biden's just like, hey, everybody just come on in. Of course you don't think that, because how could that be? Who would do something like that? And then you learn about him getting rid of Remain in Mexico and undoing everything that Trump did. And you're like, oh. And then you see what happened with him in Texas. The standoff there, where Texas got people coming across down to about, I think it was 3 to 10 people a day, whereas before it was thousands a day. And then Biden looks and goes, nah, open that up. Take all that down, open that flow up. And you're like, oh, this guy kind of really is saying, hey, everybody come on in. So it's very interesting. But let's hear from this guy. This is an actual sheriff. He's on the border day in, day out. And here's what he has to say about the whole thing. Check this out.
You're Walker, Texas Ranger. I'm Trevette. How does it make you feel, though, seeing this every day? Do you become numb, or does it dishearten you because you love your country, or what does that feel like for you?
I feel bad for the rest of the country because we're all going to have to deal with this. Your community is going to pay the price for what this administration is doing on not enforcing the rule of law. The bottom line is, to enter this country legally, you have to go to a port of entry. Claim asylum at a port of entry. That is the law. I get the fact that a lot of the politicians don't like the immigration law. Well, fix it and change it. But until then, you need to enforce the rule of law. It worked. We've seen it through the prior administration when we were only getting 25 to 40 apprehensions a day in Yuma County proper versus over 1,000 a day now. This administration, because of their politics and personal and political ideologies, stopped all that because they hate one guy who actually supported law enforcement. And the people of this country need to understand that this is coming into their backyard. This person's going to be in their backyard under a different name, and you don't know what kind of criminal history this guy's got. I've run into doctors, I've run into lawyers from different countries down here, I've run into school teachers. They're straight up with you on why they're coming here. But then you have the others that don't want to be identified, and why. Is this a child molester? Is this a murderer? What kind of crimes has he done in that country that he fled? That's a question that anybody in public safety would want to know. But yet, because of the policies of this administration, we're probably never going to know until it's too late, because somebody's going to get hurt.
Man, well said. Very well said, and the main thing that he said that stuck out, well, first off, I think he said, 40? I think he said 40 to 50 a day to thousands. Very crazy. But then also, he's saying because they hate one guy. Just because they hate one guy. And that's really what it was. Let's undo what that guy did, because people will love us so much. All of the people who don't like that guy will love that we're just getting rid of things that he's done. Let's not tell them if it was good or bad. Let's not look at the result, because that will only acknowledge some good things that he did. Let's just get rid of it, and whatever happens, happens. As long as we're undoing what he did. It's wild. And you know what? I'll take it past that, because he's saying it's just because they hate one guy. It's that. But I also think there's a little bit of intention behind that, because, people always talk about Biden and say whatever about this administration. You understand, someone in this administration has to understand, who has Biden's ear, what is going to happen when you take away Remain in Mexico? What's going to happen when you undo what Trump did at the border? Someone has to understand that. And someone did. And they didn't care. Whether it was Biden or Harris or whoever, people behind them, Blinken, I don't know. But someone understood what was going to happen, and they did it anyway. Nobody stood up. Nobody said, hey, let's just leave that. Instead of undoing what he did, let's not even mention that it was him. And as the numbers just get lower and lower and lower, because of what he did, we'll take credit for it. That would have been a good strategy. That would have been a great strategy. But they didn't want to do that. It's very, very interesting, man. Very, very interesting. Now, if we just go back to what this gentleman's talking about, as he's showing this, what is a passport, just to give you some background on what he's doing there. I've watched this documentary so many times. It's so well done. It's by Peter Santinello. Great, great documentary. He does stuff like this all the time. What he's holding this passport because apparently when these people get to the border, and I've talked about this before, and if you've seen this on my main channel, I apologize, but I have to explain. When people get to the border, they do away. If they don't want to be known for whoever they are, because like he said, whatever their background is, they do away with their passport. They get rid of all of their country's currency, anything that can link them to a certain place. They get rid of all of it, and then they just say who they are. And it doesn't have to be the name on the passport. They can say any name at all, So that's what's actually happening. And then they're processed into the country under that name. So you basically get to create the foundations of a fake fake ID. But it's real. because it's actually processed through the U.S. government. It's really bad. Really bad. Again, it's not a full ID and everything, but that's what they know you as in that country. So one country knew you as one name, you got to another country, and now they know you as a different name. It's very, very unsafe. And then the last thing that he said, that gentleman in the last clip, that naive young person, they're not enforcing the rule of law. It's true. It's very, very true. Not enforcing the rule of law. Now, if we go back to what that young gentleman said about how illegals contribute more than citizens, sometimes it's true. There's some people just sitting on the couch doing nothing. But let me just let you hear these numbers. This is wild. Again, this is the crisis on the southern border during a House Budget Committee hearing. Check this out.
Now 5 minutes to the gentlelady from Michigan, Lisa McClain.
I see a trend going here, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I think it's interesting that you have all the Republicans asking questions right now, so I appreciate this hearing, Mr. Chairman. Clearly, we care, and I know you do. I know we've talked about the numbers, but I think it bears repeating. The federal government spent over $66 billion on illegal immigrants in 2023, according to the Federation for American Immigration. Does anyone here want to guess how much we've spent on homeless veterans in 23? Guess? High? Well, let's just start. Higher, lower, the same? Anybody want to guess?
Fractional.
Fractional. Thank you. 3 billion. 66 on illegals, 3 billion on people who have laid down their lives for this country. Can anyone explain up there why that makes sense?
Well, one is including all sorts of benefits, and one is just looking at a very, very narrow slice.
No, I'm using the same
So if you
numbers.
look
I'm
at-
sir,
if
you are.
did a
I am
correct
using
comparison,
apples
it would
to
be a very
apples.
different.
I'm using apples to
calculation.
apples. So since you know, why don't you share with me?
We don't
Oh,
track
you
U.S.
don't know.
We don't
You don't
track
know.
U.S.
Okay.
veterans in the census, so that would be very helpful if we did. Then I would be
Yeah,
able to
we
give
did.
you a
But
very
do you know
good-
the answer? Because
good-
I do. I do. So I appreciate your opinion of which you have no facts on. But let me continue and let me educate you some more. The federal government, breaking that $66 billion down, let's look at what we fund. So you might want to get a pencil and paper and take some notes because I'll help you do your job. $5.8 billion in SNAP, $10 billion in Medicare, $8.2 billion in uncompensated hospital expenditures, $3 billion for primary and secondary education for illegal immigrants, And how many illegal immigrants are given taxpayer-funded housing compared to the number of homeless veterans that are sleeping on the street? You don't know because you don't want to know. You don't want to see the numbers. Well, I do, and I can share with you the American people do. Because I'll share with you, the people in my district, in Michigan, of the 9th District, we care about our homeless veterans. We care about our veterans. And yes, we care about them a little bit more than we care about people who have broken the law to get here illegally. So I actually have some suggestions, and maybe some answers on how to fix it. Instead of $66 billion, here are a couple things we could spend. The White House has requested $13 million for the National Call Center for homeless veterans. I'm going to say it again, $13 million with an M, right? Maybe we could find that out of that $66 billion, right, different between million and billion, big difference, we could funnel some more of that $66 billion to our homeless veterans. Anyone opposed to that? Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? Anybody got an idea? Anybody got an idea? Why we're not, God bless you, why we're not doing it? I'll tell you why we're not doing it, because the Biden administration does not want to do it. Am I correct? Am I incorrect on that? I didn't think so. This year,
Wow, man. Wow. That's sad. That's sad because I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen like videos of certain vets and they're crying to the phone like they're in a panic and they're not getting the help that they need and they don't understand why. Like I saw one guy where he's like, I just want to deal with the same person. He's like, but this guy, somebody released my case and now I have to find a new person and that takes time. And then I have to talk about all the things that I went through in combat all over again. I have to drudge it all up and I can't get the meds and whew, man, crazy. You think that would just be at the forefront of things, You think that would just be at the forefront of things. But like she said, and nobody contested her, she said that this administration doesn't want to do that. Nobody stepped in and said, no. They all were just silent about it. It's wild. $66 billion for the illegal immigration crisis versus $3 billion for veterans. And we all know the rates at which veterans, it's wild just to hear that number. 66 billion versus 3 billion. And you hear that and you're like, oh, well, billion's a big number, right? But it's like, why is it dwarf? Why is Ukraine receive like, what are we at? Like 180 billion, something like that? How is that happening? And then the veterans are getting taken care of like that. See, this is what people mean when they say America first. I've heard so many people have these takes and they're like, well, if you say America first and America does this for Israel, you're actually still, you have to have this. And this is what people mean. This is what Tucker means, what Candace means. This is what they mean when they say America first. They just mean make that 3 billion, 60 billion and stop letting in people people who are just rushing the border. Stop taking them around. Stop New York City with the 53 million for debit cards. Stop Chicago for the 70 million and then, another 51 million taken right out of the hands of Chicago residents. Like stop all that. And just focus on the people, the veterans. I would say first. Inner cities after that. Law and order. That's what people mean when they say America first. They don't mean that they don't like Jewish people or that they hate people who are in Gaza and are for open air prisons. They don't mean anything like that. They just mean that exact situation. Take care of the veterans. Just make sure they're good. Make sure they're taken care of in every way possible. Whew, man. And then, it's interesting. And then obviously take care of the border as well. I mean, that's also America first. Make it so people can't just rush it. Make it so people have to do it illegally. Have to do it legally. Make sure the people who are doing it legally get priority over the people who are doing it illegally. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. The fact, it really stands out that the fact that she said, because this administration doesn't want to do that and nobody... Usually, it's a back and forth. It's a little bit of a shouting match at times in these hearings. This time it was just like, let's just be quiet. Interesting stuff, From that sheriff to this woman who I believe is, yes, she's a rep. She's a congresswoman, I believe. Lisa McClain. Not like John McCain, like McClain. There's an L in there. So from her to the sheriff to that very naive person, there's such a disconnect, right? You don't have that typical Biden supporter. You don't have him.
That is the.
You don't have him really taking in information from guys like this or hearing things like this. So they really do have the mindset of there's no way that it's just open. That's not what's happening. And it's like, yeah, it is. It is what's happening. And there's a bunch more things that shouldn't be happening that are happening. Anyways, just wanted you to hear those numbers. Very, very shocking. It's almost, more than what's been sent to Israel. Depending on how far you go back. True. Definitely a big chunk of what's been sent to Ukraine. That's a massive number. And that's up to 2023, right? I mean, this hearing that they had was 8 days ago. So let's just assume it's into 2024. But what does the rest of 2024 hold in terms of money spent? You know, even this gentleman here, great guy, he was talking about when you see those tents in the news, those big tents where they have all the immigrants, he was saying how having one of those and manning that actually costs $4.5 million a day. So just having the immigrants in this huge tent, having somebody man that, all of that together costs $4 million a day when you see that. Whew. The numbers, man. The numbers. That's why that's why that old saying is like, you know, do you follow the money? That's where that old saying comes from. Because you don't really want to follow the money. You should, because it's going to give you a lot of good answers and show you some things that you never even thought about. But then it gets dark once you start following the money. So follow it at your own discretion. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps the channel tremendously. You have no idea. And other than that, I'm out.